Welcome to Rise Untold, where the stories behind the spotlight come alive. James Gunn was on top of the world. Guardians of the Galaxy had made him a household name. The Misfit director had taken a band of unknown comic book characters and turned them into global icons. He had made people laugh. He had made them cry. He had made Marvel magic. And then, in an instant, it was gone. Old tweets resurfaced. Offensive jokes, dark humor, relics of a past he had long moved on from. The internet exploded. Outrage piled on. And Disney, in an act of corporate self-preservation, fired him. Just like that, he was out. No warning. No conversation. No second chances. One moment, he was the creative force behind a billion-dollar franchise. The next, he was a liability. James Gunn watched it unfold in silence. At first, he didn't believe it. But the calls stopped coming. The agents distanced themselves. The studio offers vanished. And for the first time in decades, the man who had clawed his way into Hollywood felt completely alone. He sat there, in his home, staring into a future that didn't exist anymore. No scripts to write. No sets to direct. Just silence. He later admitted, "I didn't think I was going to make another dime in this industry. Because in Hollywood, redemption is rare. And forgiveness? Even rarer." He had always been an outsider, a weirdo from the indie world, a director with a dark past and a twisted sense of humor. But now, even the outsiders were turning away. He thought it was over. But that's not the end of this story. Because while James Gunn sat in the shadows, broken and forgotten, something unexpected happened. The cast of Guardians of the Galaxy, the very people whose careers he had helped launch, stood by him. Publicly, loudly. Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Dave Bautista. They didn't just support him. They fought for him. They wrote an open letter, risking their own careers, demanding that Disney reconsider. It was something you don't see often in Hollywood. Loyalty. And it gave James something he hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. But even then, the industry stayed silent. Offers weren't coming in. His name was still radioactive. Until, one day, a call came in from a place he never expected. DC, the very rival of Marvel, the competitor, called and offered him a job. Not just any job. They wanted him to take over the Suicide Squad. It was bold. It was risky. But it was a lifeline. James said yes. He poured every bit of pain, of isolation, of anger and redemption into that script. And when filming began, he didn't hold back. He didn't play it safe. He made his movie. Dark. Funny. Weird. Human. And when the Suicide Squad hit theaters, it was a triumph. Critics praised it. Fans loved it. He was back. But it wasn't just a comeback. It was a statement. You can't erase someone for who they used to be when they've grown into something more. And then another miracle. Disney called. They want him back. After firing him publicly, they were now inviting him to return and finish what he started. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. It was unheard of. A man canceled by the very system that made him, returning not just as a survivor, but as a victor. And James? He didn't say no, because he still had something to say. He directed Guardians Volume 3 with everything he had. Every shot, every scene, every moment was soaked in purpose. He wasn't just making a movie. He was closing chapter. A chapter that began in shame and ended in strength. But more than that, he's free. Because James Gunn learned something most never do. You are not your worst moment. You are not your past. You are what you become when no one believes in you anymore. He once said he thought he'd never make another dime. Now, he's one of the most powerful creatives in Hollywood. Not because he played the game, but because he survived the fall. And maybe, if he could lose everything, his career, his reputation, his name, and still rise from it all, then maybe you can too. Because when the world turns its back on you, when the people who once cheered your name suddenly forget you existed, it doesn't just feel like rejection. It feels like erasure. Like your entire story never mattered. That's what James Gunn faced. Not just a job lost. Not just headlines and trending hashtags. But identity shaken. Legacy burned. Everything he had built gone overnight. And the silence that followed was louder than any noise. No applause. No calls. Just doubt, echoing in every corner of his mind. He had been through failure before. He had faced rejection before. But this was different. Because it wasn't just about being told you're not good enough. It was being told you're unforgivable, unwelcome, unworthy, unredeemable. And when that happens, when you're labeled, boxed, dismissed, it can be easy to believe it. To believe you're finished. To accept that the best parts of you are behind you. But James didn't stay in that space. He could have. No one would have blamed him. He could have walked away quietly, disappeared. But something inside him, something small, almost forgotten, held on. It was fragile. It was faint, but it was real. Hope, not the loud kind that shouts, but the quiet kind that whispers. Not yet. He had a choice. Let the world define him by one moment, or rise and define himself by what came after. So he got back to work, not because the doors were wide open, but because he believed he still had something to say. And that belief, that was everything. Because belief is fuel for the broken, for the doubted, for the dismissed. When DC called and offered him the Suicide Squad, it wasn't just a second chance. It was a dare. Show us what you can do now. And James didn't just answer the call. He poured everything into it. All the fear, all the pain, all the isolation. He used it. Every frame of that film screamed, I'm still here. He didn't play by the rules. He didn't try to be safe. He didn't chase approval. He chased truth. And the truth was, he had grown. He wasn't the man he was when those tweets were written. He wasn't the guy who tried too hard to shock the world. He was someone who had fallen hard and stood back up anyway. And the world noticed. Because when the Suicide Squad premiered, it didn't just mark the return of a director. It marked the rebirth of an artist. And then the unthinkable happened. Disney, the very studio that had shut the door, opened it again. They didn't just ask him back. They entrusted him with ending the trilogy he had started. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 wasn't just a film. It was a farewell, a homecoming, a healing. For the characters, for the fans, for James. He didn't just finish the story. He honored it. He gave Rocket a soul. He gave Quill a goodbye. He gave every misfit a place to belong. And in doing so, he gave himself closure. When the final scene faded to black, people weren't just applauding the movie. They were applauding him. The man who had been erased was now impossible to ignore. And it didn't stop there, because James Gunn didn't just reclaim his seat at the table. He rewrote the blueprint. He now stands at the helm of DC Studios, reshaping the future of an entire cinematic universe. He has the power. He has the trust. He has the voice. But more importantly, he has earned it. Through scars, through silence, through the storm. He didn't ask for sympathy. He asked for opportunity. And when it came, he was ready. Because real strength isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. It's not about never falling. It's about standing up again and again when the world hopes you stay down. And James Gunn? He stood. He rose. So if you're watching this, feeling like you've lost your place, if you've been written off, if you've been pushed aside, if you've been told you're too much, too far gone, or not worth the risk, remember this. You are not your worst moment. You are not your darkest mistake. You're not the opinion of the loudest critic in a room. You are a story still being written. So write it. Keep going, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts, because somewhere out there, your redemption is waiting. And when it comes, don't whisper, don't hide, rise. This is not just the comeback of a filmmaker. This is the story of what happens when you bet on yourself, even after the world stops betting on you. This is the rise of James Gunn,